So, welcome and tell us all about you. Who are you? And give us some history of who you are.
Well, hello, greetings, Mabrika. That's the greeting in my indigenous nation of Taína. And so thank you so much for having me. This has been really beautiful already.
Yeah, how did you like the elevator?
It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
All of the quick, efficient, high professionalism is pretty much, I think, what most artists are in need of.
Well, that's why we're here. We're really here to help. And, you had a beautiful photo shoot, and you're so beautiful and great on camera, and your vocals and whatnot. Where did your heritage and this style of music, where did your roots, where did they come from? And when did you decide, this is my style of music that I love to do?
Well, I learned about the indigenous nation of the Taino people late in my life, and earlier in life, the just heartical pulse of international music, world music, reggae, African styles of drumming, and the indigenous Native American music, and the rhythmic pulse and rootsiness is definitely called to my heart all of my life. And I love the Latin, the salsas and the merengues and the bachatas and all of the mix of all the flavors of the world. So in reality, it has been both something that came through just natural inspiration, but in review and learning about history, and my dad, who I didn't grow up with, being from the Dominican Republic, the island of Quisqueya was its original name. Researching Dominican Republic, what is that? Hispaniola, what is that? All these words have so many facets of the trails to history that if we follow it, it actually just raises more question. So music is, for me, my constant answer to all of the emotions that rise from life, and getting to delve in a healthy way, whether there's a heavy emotion that you want to sort through it and search through it and describe it and allow oneself to feel all of the corners of what that is and why is it, and then what do we do with it is really where music sits for me. A mixture of all of the facets of the world whose blood I carry. And so it's a mixture of exploration of history and also just of self, of where I am now. Some of these things, all of these things matter, and they don't at the same time.
Is reggae music as popular as it was? Because when you came in, and I'm thinking, I really started to listen to reggae music with Jimmy Cliff and, Bob Marley. I'm thinking, Buffalo Soldier, what's that, 50 years old? And then we lost Bob and Rita and his son and family. Is the popularity of reggae music still up here as strong as it was in America? As it was, I'll never forget when I heard Eric Clapton do Bob's version of I Shot the Sheriff. And at that time, there were so many preppy little white kids, college kids, that discovered reggae music. And I saw a documentary not too long ago on Bob, and Bob was saying, hey, wait a minute, this music is much more than I Shot the Sheriff and Eric Clapton and everybody coming to our concerts, It just, I'll never forget that. And I laugh because I was one of those people. I loved the music, but I had no idea, the heritage. But I'm an idiot.
I love that you brought that piece in, because now the equivalent of that is sublime. Sublime, as far as in the islands, they're in a lot of trouble because they tried to copyright a lot of the old roots drum and bass lines that are called rhythms. And in the islands, the reason those rhythms are sung on by so many artists is the way that started is that they were in little tiny tin shacks. Everybody heard rehearsal and they loved what they heard. So there were people outside spitting on it here, spitting on it there, in their way. And then when that rhythm went to the recording studio, then they welcome in a bunch of vocalists to do that. So it's not respectful for the United States. Let's clarify America with the United States, because when we say America, often we mean the United States, because America is north and south,
Right.
and it's a majority of brown people. So, Mexico is also North America, and those are indigenous peoples to this land. So again, looking at the history, and reggae is a 0 point of so many culminations. Jamaica keeps all kinds of music alive from every era, from country, Celine Dion. I heard Backstreet Boys when I was down there. I was like,
and
what?
you've been
in the
all over the
world?
country, and you've lived throughout. You said you spent time in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
so you didn't ever think about maybe I'm going to record some Bob Wills as with a reggae twist,
Right, but that's
Yeah.
actually what reggae does.
with
So,
with the background about like a Bob Wills.
yeah, there are. When you go down to the islands, you'll see it both ways, where some of the reggae mixes were actually taken from producers that were here in the US or in the UK, and they gave these songs to the Jamaican artists, and they didn't know that it was actually being plagiarized. So those things actually go both ways, and that was education for me too. But back to your other question about where reggae stands and
Yeah,
sits in the U.S. today, it's kind of a complicated matter for several reasons. One, first of all, I wasn't alive when Bob was here, so I mean, I can't speak to it in equivalency. However, I feel like there's still the same correlations, that roots are always underground and they're always strong. Now, at the same time, the pop, the top 40, the dance hall has definitely taken over for the, at least in my experience, even in Jamaica, for example. So countries like Japan and England and some US artists are maintaining roots, keeping roots, and like Rocksteady and those kinds of beats alive. Whereas, in the islands, I did experience in Jamaica that there was a lot of top 40 sounding music, but at this one party where the power went out, when the power came back on and the DJ started playing the old roots stuff, everybody relaxed and started dancing, whereas before they were all like trying to stand hard and, you know what I mean? Like, oh. So when I first went to Jamaica, and the reason I went there instead of the Dominican Republic first, for one, my family's land was stolen by an oil company, and the port that was just one portion of the family's land is still an oil refinery. So it's very heavy, very heated matters to go open that can of worms. So I was like, let me just go over here to Jamaica first and see if they like my music, see if I can call this reggae, and if there's any reception.
Are you tired of the association of, oh, it's 420, we're going to smoke pot, hey, let's book a reggae artist? I listen to reggae music all the time. I don't have to have one certain date where we're going to celebrate marijuana. And reggae music is more than marijuana and smoking weed. Or am I wrong?
Well, it absolutely is. And the reason that the cannabis is part of the struggle is because it has been used as a sacrament, as a religious practice from ancient Hebrew times, that it's still being used in that way in the islands. So some of again, historic correlations to why these things are, labeled as bad, and then also, there was a time that I didn't smoke at all. I definitely felt very strongly against it. I was afraid of it. I was, always tried to be very responsible in life, but
Do you smoke now?
I
mean,
do.
is it?
I do partake in cannabis, and I enjoy it. I am a little bit, weighted about the genetic modification and those kinds of things. So I do my work to try to get closer to natural as
Right.
possible. But yeah, I think that, for example, tying into your question, I just learned from Chuck Ream this year that the International Monetary Fund threatened Jamaica with removing their WIC program's formula, baby formula, if Jamaica legalized herb first before the U.S. did.
Right.
So in those politics, there's got to be reasons why. And so, we just have a lot of those things going on that truly are what we should be looking under the microscope at. And so Jamaica, or the reggae music and the singing about the areas of society that are gray and swept under the rug, cannabis being one of them, is partially why there's that pairing. And it's because there has had to be somebody holding the banner that just because the law says, the legalities, people's inflicted law says that this is wrong, we know it's not. And, so the music is to do that.
How do people how do people find your music? Go to it, book you? How do we contact you?
Well, you can find Mystic Dub and myself, Reaiah True, on Facebook. There's also Instagram. You can find Mystic Dub on. There's SoundCloud. You can also get access to the album that was just recorded in Jamaica with Barry. So the album's name is International Bird.
And that track,
Yep.
it was your way to pay tribute to a very talented producer who passed.
Yes.
And,
oh my goodness. Well, when I went there and I asked Barry, again, I wanted to see what Jamaica would say about Mystic Dub and my style of music, because I love all kinds of styles of music. So it has always been difficult to be like, this is the genre. But the industry says you have to choose one. So, you know what I mean? But he said, just keep your blinders on. He said, a lot of things that you hear, these are fads and they'll come and go. But he said, your music can stay. And I was very touched by that, for sure.
Well, we've had a beautiful time, and thank you for stopping by the elevator. And please come back, and if we can do anything for you, we will.
Thank you so much for having me. I really am grateful for today and for you all bringing this to Grand Rapids. It's beautiful, state of the art, and I'd be happy to help facilitate other artists to
We'll
come.
tell others.
All right, will
All
do.
right. God bless.
Blessings, Yah Guide.